Let's talk about the studio setups I've had over the years. Being on the platform 9 years, I've learned a lot. So let me share my experience with all of these different setups that I've had over the years. Starting with the Minimalist Setup. This was my first ever YouTube video, and literally it was filmed on my phone, and I had no lights. I literally just used natural light from nature. I'll label the different lighting. I'll label desks and everything. So the lighting, this was my window. I was standing quite literally just right here. The thing that's cool about natural lighting, and I still use it to this day, is it produces a very soft light. I'd say for studio number 1, this was my college bedroom. I give it a 5 out of 10. If I'm looking at it from like a video production standpoint, the intention was there. That was about it. Elevated minimalist. So whenever I started really learning video production and I was like, you know what, I want to learn the technicality of this, I started filming videos at work just after hours with the equipment that was there. This was in a very tiny office space. My desk was over here, but where I was seated was here. I had 2 softboxes. They're not always the brightest lights in the world, but if you're looking for something that's in more of a compact space like that, they work perfectly, dude. And the camera itself was sitting right here. The lighting, I mean, super simple, super budget, super great. Studio number 2, I'm gonna give it an 8. I think 8 out of 10 is pretty solid. I actually really vibe with this setup. If I didn't have the current lights that I have now, I'll be honest, I'd probably still have this type of setup. Warm and bold. This is whenever I purchased my first camera and I purchased my first softboxes. I have some thoughts on. This was in my dining room. I opted not to have a dining room whenever I was living on my own. I was like, nah, I don't need to be dining. I need to be making YouTube videos. It was just me. Like I said, you can really find these affordable. I remember finding a set of 4 on Facebook Marketplace here in St. Louis for like $65. 4 of them, light stands, had a backdrop and everything. I mean, these are super approachable nowadays. I had a nice little setup that was like a cube organizer here. So then I was seated right here. Softbox here, so that the light was going this way. Here's the part that I just do not understand. Why did I have a softbox here? Maybe I was I don't know. The light is so uneven in this. It looks very dramatic. If I'm trying to make a studio tour video, I want it to be warm and inviting, not like super dramatic. Studio number 3, I'm gonna be honest, this is getting like a 4 out of 10 because it's just not good in my opinion. Casual and quarantined. This is whenever I upgraded cameras and I also started experimenting more with light in the background, as you can see. So this was just in my bedroom. Honestly, a really cool setup. I was making do with what I had at the time. I started to learn things because I even have a boom stand. Rule of thumb when it comes to videos, you can sacrifice video quality a little bit, but if the audio quality sucks, people are going to be so disconnected from what you make. Just being real. The interesting thing about this one is you can see there are some RGB lights in the back. These were like $30 on Amazon for a set of 3. They would take AA batteries and I would just get rechargeable ones. I had a puck light on the ceiling here. I had 3 on my entertainment center, and then I had 1 here. Studio number 4, I'm going to give this one a 6 because it was cool and all, but like I had 2 softboxes, so where the heck was the other one? Cool and white aesthetic. I still talk about this setup to this day. This setup was so good. It was so good. I long for a setup like this again. And there's just something about like the clean, all white aesthetic that almost gave like early unbox therapy vibes that I really liked. The standing desk was there, and then this was my other desk. Lighting wise, I had a softbox. It looks like I had a softbox here and the camera was like right here, but you can see that I had desk lamps and I bought LED bulbs off Amazon, super cheap ones. You don't need fancy ones. I'm giving this a 9.5. Is that a trash can? We're docking it. It's a 9. No, it's a 9. What the hell was I thinking? The semi-pro setup. So this is whenever things started to get really different. This is whenever I had quit my job to do video production full time. So naturally, I did a lot of homework to figure this shit out. This setup was in an office downtown, and it was the weirdest shape ever because it was like a long rectangle like this. And there was a door here and a door here. Once upon a time, we did a shared like co-working studio space for content creation downtown, and it was super cool. It was a great spot, and like this, I really liked how this turned out. The furnishings in the office were provided, so like we had desks there and there. So I was seated here, and then I had this massive softbox light. I'll see if I can find footage of it. It was huge, but it was literally like that big. Overall, I really like this setup because it looks just very casual, looks very just like not really put together, because I'm not gonna lie, it kind of wasn't really put together. But I'd say for one light, this being studio number 6, I give it a 7 out of 10, because honestly, it's simple, it's good, it's relatable. I have the audio, like the mic on the boomstick. It's giving very late 2010s YouTube energy, and I kind of vibe with that. The casual vlogger setup. So this setup was also kind of fascinating because this was just in my personal studio at this shared space. The studio I had was a really weird, interesting setup because it was very much so like a rectangle like this, but there was like a jut here where like the HVAC was. I didn't use a light because the light was this entire wall. Being downtown and I had a north-facing office, the sun never directly came in unless it reflected off of a certain building. This specific setup was good, and I really like what the light's doing behind me, how it's like almost adding like this really cool like geometric shadow effect. I'd also give it a 7 out of 10 because it's really cool. It's just also not trying so hard to impress, and that's what I really vibe with. This was earlier this year when I was talking about the Leica, which teaser, I sold it. I no longer own it. We can get into that in a different video. Currently where we're at, we have this giant room, which is segmented into like different scenes. This is a scene, that's a scene, that now doesn't even look like that. We have the podcast studio, podcast setup, editing bays. We have a whole bunch of different stuff in here now. But let me get into this. I was seated right here. The lighting situation, I absolutely adore this lighting situation. I went crazy with lights. I've invested very heavily in. So I have an aperture right here. This is the 300D Mark II with the lantern. So the lantern diffuses the light. It lights up a bigger space than like your typical like softbox. I'm using it right now as a matter of fact, and you can see how well and how evenly the light is distributed kind of everywhere. If you need just like a one-stop shop light, there's nothing better than this combination in my opinion. This one was the 100DS. I had one of these on the 100D, and everything's on a C stand also because it keeps things out of frame. Like there's a light right here. See that? I really rock with this setup. This is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion because the lighting is perfect. The camera quality is perfect. This is shot with my S5 because you can see my GH6 in frame. This is like a perfect setup to me. But Dante, if that's so perfect, then why did you change it again? For clients, I'll do things that I know will work. For me, I'm gonna experiment and I'm gonna try different things and see what looks good because I'm one of those people that we're from freaking Missouri. It's the show me state. I gotta see things and actually like experience it to know how much I like it. I have a desk here. That's me. I have a light that's up here set to like a different color temperature than this one. So this one is like filling in. You can kind of see like a little bit of a glow on my shoulders. This right here is also the 300D with the lantern. Oh, also, I think it's worth mentioning that there is a window here and there's a window here too. I mean, looking at it on the screen, it looks pretty good. Something different with the background here. I think that I could do better with the setup that's over here. It looks good, but I think there's a room for improvement. I think it's a good start. So I'd give it probably a 7.8 out of 10. So overall, I mean, I really like the studio setups. And as you can see, it's good to experiment and really mess with things as you go along because you never know what you're gonna end up liking. And also it's good to have like your own distinct look. Maybe next episode, I'll talk about the Leica. Maybe I'll let you guys know what happened with that because I fell in love with that camera and I even made a whole video about it. Instead of a commitment, I think it was more of a fling. It was a nice summer fling. Also, the podcast is coming back, so be sure to subscribe below and I'll see you guys in the next one.